talking.
You talking?
Just talking
Dude, not
talking about
Talking about it?
Talking about talking.
talking about Cool Whip, dude.
I love it. We all love Cool Whip around these parts. Okay. All right, you guys got the notes up? I got the notes up. Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Infinite Scale Podcast Network. I'm your
I like your
host.
Tim Rogers impression.
Thank you. It probably hurts me that I was watching the Tim Rogers action button review of Doom 1993 right before I recorded this, so no doubt a bit of his inflection is going to seep through into my being because, as we all know, I am weak and malleable like a sponge when it comes to influences. So, yes, welcome back to the Infinite Scale Podcast Network. You know what I really need to get in the habit of doing is setting a concrete intro that I can do every time. Sometimes I do the date. Sometimes I don't do the date. Sometimes I introduce us. Sometimes I just say, fuck it, and let's just talk about the shit we're here to talk about. In the name of professionalism, I've decided to standardize this system. So I'm going to say the date, which is September 20th, 2020. And
Year of our Lord.
Yes, year of our Lord. As well, good year so far. Great year. Everybody's loving it.
Yeah. One of the best.
Yeah.
Fine vintage.
Yeah. In 100 years, the wines from 2020 will be highly sought after because the year the apocalypse happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am, of course, here with Sean Petersohn, as per usual. Hello, Sean.
Hello. Except for last week.
Except for last week, but that was a co-op compatriots thing. And, yeah, I mean, you didn't play that game, so that made sense.
I played a little bit of it.
You played about 14 seconds of that game. I referred to you and B-Paul as our employees playing that game. And then
On assignment.
yes, exactly. Yeah. And then, joining me again, this is your third time now.
That's right.
Tyler Williams.
Hello.
Hello. How are you guys? What have you been up to?
Well,
Man, Sunday watched
Yep.
some football.
Yep.
Did the football Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's all I got.
That's it.
Here.
Sean visited Jewel.
yeah. I sure did listen to a lot of video game podcasts, but I did not play a lot of video games.
Yeah, that's how it goes sometimes as an adult.
Yeah.
Yeah, I listen to podcasts and I go, that game sounds really cool. I would like to play that, and then never do about
Yep.
50% of the time. It's like a coin toss about whether I'm actually going to play a game that I'm interested in. Adding to the cacophony of video game podcasts that one could listen to instead of playing video games or while playing video games. I'm not here to judge you. I mean, if you like, listening to people talk while you play video games, then more power to you. We're going to talk about, because a lot of weird shit happened over the last 2 to 3 weeks in the world of video games. Namely, some announcements and botched releases of video game hardware and consoles in a way that is, I think, interesting, but also, like, all three of us are primarily PC people, so, like, the from the outside looking in, how I feel sort of watching people, like, fanboy over different consoles and fight each other on Twitter and, like, obsess over them is always interesting to me, especially as somebody who, like, will probably wind up with a console at just a matter of when and if there are even games to play for it in the year 2020. But anyway, I don't know if you guys, we spoke a little bit before this, and it kind of sounds like you hadn't quite tuned into the cacophony until a little bit later.
Yeah. I tend to wait in general unless something really big happens. Sarah did show me the Final Fantasy trailer, which in the smallest font possible. After in the
Yeah.
center, it has that large font that says only on Sony, and then at the very bottom it says also on PC.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
smallest font possible.
Well, which we'll talk about that because there was some shit related to that too. Not that particular trailer, but that screen. But yeah, we'll get to that. So, yes. So I want to talk about. I think if we're gonna do this, we should probably do it in chronological order. So maybe we'll just tackle the Nvidia stuff really quick, because I don't think there's as much to talk about there, but it's also like the most relevant to us, maybe as people who play PC games. So I typed up something just a second ago just to kind of like set the stage for this, but basically, Nvidia had, they always do their announce and release kind of schedule in August, September time period, as of late. And so on September 1st, they had a press conference. I say press conference. It was like a presentation from the CEO of Nvidia's kitchen. Numerous memes were also born about why he had so many spatulas in the background. Like he just had a lot of those rubber like a collection of like 30 rubber spatulas in a jar in the background. People were like, yeah, just type Nvidia spatula into Google and you'll get fucking everything. Anyway, so a lot of people kind of curious about that. But yeah, it was a pretty, they talked a lot about technology and how it's progressed over the course of kind of the Nvidia product cycle over the last like 20 years or whatever. I think this was celebrating like 25 years of their technology. And kind of a big thing was the progression of graphics technology and like taking next big steps and stuff like that. And they're curious how you guys feel about this, because obviously like we're used to the idea that graphics are sort of in the diminishing returns category lately of like how much better looking can things get. Like over the course of the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One generation, it didn't really seem like stuff became mind-blowingly better in any sense of the word. So it's funny to like try to pimp out the 30 series to make it seem like it's like a huge major step, but maybe it could turn out to be. And there's some interesting tech under the hood on this stuff. So, but this was their second generation of their ray tracing, Mr. Tracing RTX cores. Like they're calling the graphics card, like it used to be GTX back in the day, and now it's RTX. So the RTX 3070, 3080, and 3090. And yeah, I think what's particularly interesting here is that for maybe what a lot of people consider to be not a substantial amount of money, you could get pretty fucking fast cards. Like supposedly the 3070 is going to outperform, according to Nvidia's charts, the 3070 is going to outperform like a 2080 Super, which just came out last year. And that card is only $500, which I think a 3080 Super was like, that was like an $800-$900 card, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So there's definitely, it feels like making good on the promise that the 20 series made, like kind of just packing a bunch of performance into like their new tech. People refer to like generational things as like the tick and tock. Like one is the major release, one is the refinement, and this being like the refinement. Now, as of recording on September 20th, we only have the neighborhood's burning down, boys. The media's right about Chicago, everybody.
Just normal Chicago noises.
Yeah. So as of September 20th, the only card to have come out of all of these is the 3080. So we can say with some certainty, and based on like performance analysis and stuff like that. Like people like Digital Foundry on Eurogamer has a great breakdown about performance and how it relates to previous generations and bottlenecking and all that stuff. Suffice to say, they're fucking really fast, especially if you're not playing at 1080p. At 4K is where you see the most gains over previous generations. And it's an interesting thing because it's starting to get us in line with like 4K maybe becoming viable for gaming, if that's what somebody wants. I mean, I don't know that I want that yet. I don't know about you guys, but
yeah, I don't, just because I don't want to buy another monitor.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I bought a monitor over the summer. Not really looking to
not trying to upgrade that. Yeah. No, I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of past the point where like a game has to be like the most beautifully graphically. I think that as long as they're there and it is a decent looking game, I'm more than happy to focus on other portions of it, other parts of the game that make it more interesting. Like, I mean, like we talked about last week with Astria, right? Nothing about it is terribly impressive, but it's still an amazing game without that graphic power. And so, I mean, that's just me personally. I guess 4K is not terribly interesting to me. Guys.
Yeah, I think as people who are used to playing, I mean, we sort of bounce into and out of competitive games, but like the idea of graphical fidelity is really nice until I think about what impact that has on frame rate overall. Like I've become so used to being in the mid to low 100s as a frame rate on average that I don't think I could go back to 60 FPS gaming at 4K, or otherwise, right? So like I play games on consoles here and there, and they always take an adjustment. Like it always feels like shit for a second, but now, so I think the things just to kind of touch on this stuff really quickly, because these are the things that are maybe slightly more, I don't want to say more interesting, but like create a compelling sort of suite of offerings, is that so they're talking about because as we'll get into with the new consoles, one of the things that is making console gaming maybe technologically advanced even compared to PC gaming in its current form is the way in which it interacts with storage, like hard drives and memory, like RAM, because a lot of that stuff. So the ways in which they're trying to use like tensor cores and other parts of the card to improve overall performance and system performance and provide like additional features. So like you guys know I was testing out that RTX voice thing a little bit. They've fully released that now under the umbrella of Nvidia Broadcast app, which is like a thing you can download that will allow you to sort of fine tune and use the RTX voice stuff. And they have a similar program for your camera that lets you like auto key out or auto blur your background and stuff like that, which is kind of interesting. And I think it seems like they're trying to sort of prepare us being like the PC crowd for the improvements that games will see that take advantage of the technologies that are console proprietary. So like, something we'll talk about maybe a little bit in the Sony thing is like the way that Sony has shown like that new Ratchet and Clank game, for instance, the way they're streaming in and rendering levels faster than was possible in previous generations of hardware because of the way that it accesses console system memory and video memory. It's like all PCIe, it's all NVMe, no like that kind of thing. Like they're really trying to ramp up load times and things like that. And it seems like this is the first generation of graphics hardware to sort of attempt to prep us for that kind of thing. Like they're supporting PCIe Express 4.0, which is the big slot where you plug your graphics card into, to get the video out, to get the frames out. It's on the we're at PCIe 3.0 right now. Theoretically, 4.0 is going to be what we transition into for future technology, right? Like higher bandwidth, faster bus speed, that kind of stuff. So, so we've got that. What does all this mean? Well, for some reason, this presentation really fucking got everybody hard and raring to go for new graphics hardware, because this shit released on, was it Thursday? It feels like a longer time ago. But yeah, this shit released on Thursday, and I was ready. I was there. I don't know. Were you guys thinking about getting anything, or no? You're just happy with the performance that you have now?
No, yeah, absolutely not. I wasn't. I just bought my 2080 last year in 19.
Okay.
And so for me, it just wouldn't be worth the investment, because I don't know. I don't know why I do this, but I just hold on to things. Mm-hmm. So I would keep the 2080 as a backup card in case the 3080 shit the bed. And then I would hold on to it for so long that it would essentially lose its value, and then I would just give it away in 5 years. That's just the way that I handle all of my
instead of selling it, or
instead of selling it and trying to make some money back. Yeah, I never do that.
Reselling stuff is such an inconvenience to me.
Yeah, you said reselling.
Yeah, I hate reselling shit.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it can be really annoying.
I'd like to get a new card, but I don't know when that would be. It's not out of necessity yet, because nothing I'm playing really needs it.
Yeah. What are you running, Sean? Card you?
Well, isn't it an old 1080?
You have a 1080 Ti right now. My old 1080 Ti.
Yeah, I upgraded the rest of it during the summer, but I didn't get a new graphics card because this seemed sufficient for now. And it's such a big purchase too, because I was already spending I spent $1,200 or something on the whole thing.
Yeah.
That would probably be the next step. Everything else is probably going to be good for a while, but I tend to upgrade out of necessity. So I'm sure we'll all get into some game and I'll feel like shit because my graphics are really bad, and I'll just end up ordering a card or something. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, this it feels like this generation is aimed at people who were in the 10 series, but in your case, what you just said, you probably won't experience that for a while. I think you could still be considered mid to high range maybe until the next series even. So I think a 10 series card is still a great card. I would say people who are in the 970, 980, 980 Ti, that kind of generation would probably see the most benefit to upgrading.
I feel like I play one AAA game a year, and most of the time it's not even something from that year. It'll be something relatively old, like The Evil Within 2 or something, which doesn't even need that's just how I tend to be. I'm more about the performance than I am trying to play the latest game at the highest fidelity.
I agree. Yeah, I remember I bought that 1080 Ti because my 970 ran or it might have even been a 1080 at the time. Ugh, I've gone through too many cards. I got a 10 series card because my 970 ran The Witcher 3 like fucking dog shit. It was really bad. So I jumped into the 10 series raring and ready to go, getting some good frame rates in The Witcher 3. But yeah, so that's kind of the gist of that. I mean, the release of this was a shit show. Nvidia's kind of sort of acknowledged it. They're saying, hey, it's not, we're releasing a lot more, don't worry about it. But I was awake at 8 a.m. ready to buy something, and everything sold out. I never even saw an in-stock thing on any of the web. Like I went to Best Buy, I went to Micro Center, and Amazon, and I never saw anything in stock. Like it was just sold out before I even got a shot. So we'll see. Yeah, I mean, I at this point, I seeing like the full benchmarks and the full reviews, I could take it or leave it for myself, I guess. That money could be spent on, man, you know, it'd be really nice. Just one really big fucking SSD, you know? Just one big, I'm just going to yank the 4 SSDs I have out of my system, fucking kick that shit to the curb, and plug in one NVMe SSD that's like 4 terabytes.
That's an objectively better purchase because you can get more games.
Right. I mean, yeah, exactly. It literally leads to more gaming. Yeah. And as gamers, #gamers here, we're all about, more gaming.
Were people ever using bots to buy up computer parts before 2020? Or is this just a thing that I'm now aware of?
Yeah,
because that's so ridiculous.
I guarantee it was happening before now, right?
The first time I remember a release being really hard was like around the time that Bitcoin mining became like popular for some reason, and everything was selling out. I'm sure around that point maybe was when it started, but this is definitely like the worst, the most pronounced it's been, I think. Because I remember the 2080 Ti release being kind of bad, but I was still able to get one from somewhere. Like, this time it seemed like there was no shot. But yeah, anyway. So I think that's that, unless you guys have anything more you wanted to talk about on the Nvidia side of things. I think that, so moving into console stuff, this one's a bit of a weird one because we'll talk about the Xbox announcement, because I think that shit was really weird, and I got to watch it like kind of in real time, because basically so if you guys haven't been paying attention to the console stuff at all, the Sony and Microsoft have both had already announced their flagship shit, right? Like the PS5 has been known about for a while. They announced it, I think, even last E3, right? And Series X, same thing. Now the thing is that like price was like the big question. Everybody was like holding out on price, and like exact specifications were, maybe vague or hazy, and release date. And I think because it was the coronavirus and everything, people were wondering if earlier in the year, speculation on if they were going to get pushed out of 2020, like if it would be a 2021 thing, like, stuff like that, or how is supply going to be? Were they going to be super low stock, whatever. But the consoles themselves have been kind of relatively known. The thing that makes this situation weird is that the only thing we didn't know about the Series X was the release date and the price. But there was a rumored shittier is harsh, weaker version of that console that maybe existed. Like people were like, we think it exists. We're pretty sure it's out there somewhere. It got leaked and confirmed before we even got a price of the Series X. Like, that was how weird this was. Like, everything leaked out. Like, I had seen people talking on Twitter, like, late at night about a Series S confirmation at $299 and some random pictures and specifications, right? When I woke up the next morning, the official Xbox account had, I woke up at, 7:30 or 8. The official Xbox account had tweeted out 3 hours before that an official announcement of this console. Yeah, it was weird. Really strange.
I love getting all of my news from Twitter.
Yes, absolutely. It's the fastest way to get news. It really is. And they I don't know. I just happen to be checking Twitter when R.I.P. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, but anyway, like shit like that. I feel like shit just shows up You know, like you're just like, I'm on Twitter, and then it'll be like, oh, I just saw a tweet that someone died. Like, that's weird. Like, how is this? And then you start seeing news and like people talking about it, like going around. So, yeah, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, equally as newsworthy as the leak of the Xbox Series S.
If not more.
If not, if not less. Yeah. But I hope to infuriate somebody today. I'm in that mood. So
don't link your Twitter in this episode.
I know.
I will, motherfuckers. Somebody come at me, dude. So Xbox Series S. It was tweeted out on September 8th that it exists and the price, which is $299. It was the first of all the new consoles to have a price, and people were kind of blown away by how inexpensive it. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but for a new console, that feels cheap.
Yeah, no, that's super cheap. I think it's even cheaper than. Do you guys remember the Xbox 360 like arcade version?
Yeah, I think
wasn't the arcade version like $350?
Something like, or it was, or maybe it was. I think it might have been $300. I don't remember, but yeah, it was cheap. I mean,
it's just crazy that like we're getting so much out of this one and such a significantly smaller form factor as well.
Yeah.
I think it's really difficult to be as panicked about this as people who are primarily playing games on consoles. Like I feel like I'm looking at it from like an outsider's perspective. So yeah. I was surprised by the price, mostly because I had just accepted months ago that this shit's just going to be more expensive. But I mean, it's a pleasant surprise, and I'm glad that more people will be able to play games on those new consoles.
Yeah, well, I think the main thing that is shocking about this is because we just got done talking about the Nvidia stuff, right? Where like a graphics card that we consider to be a worthwhile investment like is $800, you know, whatever, and then this console, which will play the same games, is $299. Now obviously like there will be questions of fidelity and things like that, but they're claiming that this will play everything that the Series X will play, which is the more expensive big brother of this console. And it will, like, all the features will be the same. The only difference will be the rendering resolution, which is, in this case, 1440p upscaled to 4K if you have a 4K TV, compared to native 4K on the Series X. But also, like, I mean, it's kind of a wait and see game on that. Like, I'm curious when the comparisons and specs actually come out and games start trickling out, and you know, Digital Foundry does their thing, or like different people put the charts up. I need to see the charts. You know, this runs at this frame rate on the Series S. This runs at this frame rate on the Series X, to see if it really is the same. But like, if it is, that's a pretty compelling price point. Like, I don't know. So, and I just looked it up. The 360 launched in 2005 at a price of $299. So I think the arcade was $100 cheaper at like $199 or something like that.
Yeah, I just looked at it. It was $150.
Okay, yeah.
Totally missed.
But it was also that. Like, why? I remember at the time there being almost no reason to buy an Xbox 360 arcade because it didn't come with a hard drive, and you needed a hard drive. You could not have one of those on a 360. Like, it was like insane. But
yeah,
anyway.
No, my family bought me the arcade version. That was
I think I remember that.
I had to like come to school and try and fucking barter for somebody's spare hard drive.
Yeah.
4 gigabyte hard drive top loader fucking thing to slap on there so I could actually play games.
Fucking God, I feel like when we talk about this shit from like our childhood, we sound like old men talking about like fucking DOS and shit. I'm like, yeah, I remember I had no hard drive on my Xbox.
Well, you could they had those memory card things.
They did, but they were tiny.
They were tiny. But it's funny now because the new Xbox has the the memory expansion slots that look almost identical, but are like 1 terabyte expansions that they've worked with Seagate on. That that's pretty nuts.
So yeah, that's a pretty interesting thing about these. So in relation to the stuff I kind of briefly mentioned in the Nvidia thing, this is similarly going to, like on the Xbox One currently, you could just buy an external hard drive and fucking USB that shit to your console, and you have however much space you want to store games. They're not allowing that on either of the consoles going forward, on Sony or Microsoft. And the reason is because they're trying to streamline the tech in this to make loading times better, to make game installation, the process better, texture loading and like streaming and all that stuff. So basically memory is going to be proprietary. So Sony and Microsoft will sell you more memory for your console if you want it, with the intention of it being as fast as possible. And yeah, so the Xbox version of that is like these little expansion cards that you like slot into the back of your fucking thing. I hope it has a really good slot feel, you know? Essential. Like I need I love a good slot feel, dude. I need it to be like a fucking floppy disk or something. Like just like
I want like the old Dreamcast style memory card that has like a little interface on it.
That would be like a mini screen.
That's what I need.
Tells you what games are like in this card. You have these games. That'd be fucking badass.
Yeah, that would be.
I had one of those.
I think it is worth. It is worth noting that you can still put in like an external hard drive into the Xbox. It's just that you cannot install current generation games on there. It's only for previous generation games.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So you can have, and the nice thing too about the Xbox is it is backwards compatible all the way back to the original Xbox. Like all generations are versus the PlayStation 5 that is only backwards compatible with PS4 games.
Yes.
Wait, with discs?
What's that?
With discs?
Depending on which one you get.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
So, it's interesting because it works the same way that the current Xbox does, which is the Xbox One. You can put a disc in of an original Xbox or an Xbox 360 game as long as it is supported, and it will prompt you to download that game from the store, and then you can run it. So technically with discs, and the Series X and S will work the same way. That's the main reason I have an Xbox One, is because I was like, I want to play Black or fucking Burnout 3 Takedown. I don't know. Is Burnout 3 Takedown on the backwards? If not, it should be. Microsoft, what are we doing?
Silent Hill 2 Restless Dreams Edition.
Yeah. Is that a thing? I didn't even know that was a thing. Is that the Xbox version?
It's only on the Xbox, and you get a separate story mission where you play as another character, and it's only on the Xbox.
That sounds remember when different consoles versions of games were like almost different games sometimes, or like had different shit? Wasn't that like, I don't know. Anyway.
Now
I think it's like a 2-hour game too. It's like one of the first DLCs.
Yeah, that's so strange. I
not
remember
really DLC.
The Xbox version of Metal Gear Solid 2, which I think was Subsistence, had a skateboarding mini game in it.
Interesting.
Anyway, so
do you think they'll put another Halo game on Crackdown 4?
Yeah. Crackdown 4 is going to have the beta for Halo 6. I don't know where. No, because they're calling this new one Halo Infinite. What if they had Halo Infinite, and then after that they just went back to numbering them? Like they were just like
Infinity +1.
Yeah. Infinity Extra.
I'm really embarrassed that I said Halo 4. I don't know the chronology of Halo.
No, I think you said Crackdown 4, a new Halo.
Did I say Crackdown 4?
Yeah. I mean, dude, there's Halo 4. Tyler and I played through Halo 4 in 2013 or something like that. Like that game's fucking old. Yeah. But yes. So backwards compatibility is a big thing. Microsoft is really that they take that shit really seriously. I think almost as like a counterpoint to Sony being like, we don't give a fuck about backwards compatibility. Like Microsoft's like, we're cool. We care about our old games. Like there was some statement by a Sony executive where he was literally like, I went to an event recently where we had Gran Turismo, like every Gran Turismo running side by side, and I looked at Gran Turismo 1 and I thought, why would anyone want to play this now? It looks terrible. Like he literally fucking said that. And like if that's like, yes, I mean it does objectively, but also if that's what you think, then why are you in the video games industry? Like how could you not see the value of old shit? Do you want somebody in 10 years to look back at your fucking shitty console and game and be like, look at that garbage. Looks like just a bunch of shit. But
I think it's extra bizarre because I consider like the Sony community to be probably the biggest group of gamers that want to play vintage games, or just not really vintage, but just older games. So it's really bizarre that kind of isn't really met.
Yeah, I think it's just company priorities, right? Like Sony, there's this conversation that happens every time a new console generation is happening where it's like whoever's winning is the shittier company at the moment. Like Microsoft beat the pants off Sony in the 360 PS3 generation, and then come the next generation, they were idiots about everything. Like Microsoft fucked up everything about the Xbox One in a way that made it embarrassingly unloved, I guess, at launch. Like people, I mean, the memes about like, look, remember the Sony press conference? They're like, we're trading games, because like Microsoft was trying to make it to where like they wanted to make everything primarily digital, no more used games, no more whatever. And they're like, hello, we're Sony. Here's how you exchange games on the Sony platform. And it was like two people handing each other discs. Like, it was just the messaging back then was really bad, and Microsoft has done almost a complete 180 on that stuff, and has become the much more palatable company. But I still think they're making huge mistakes when it comes to the games that they release. Like, it feels like fewer people than ever care about Halo. It feels like their exclusives library is pretty bad. Like I need to look at a list, because I'm like, what have they even? I don't know. Even in the Xbox One generation, like none of us. I was the only one of us who had an Xbox One because I wanted to play Halo whenever that came out, and that was kind of it, and backwards compatibility. But most of my friends did not get one because there was not a compelling reason to, with a lack of exclusive games for it. And so PlayStation 4 was the chosen platform for our friend group. But yeah, we've kind of gone on a tangent here, but Microsoft is really trying to, with the Series S, and with the low price and everything, everybody was surprised. And I think Microsoft was really riding high on this, on like following this announcement, because it was kind of just like, oh shit, this is really cheap. Is this a compelling enough reason for people who have a PS4 right now to switch? Like depending on what, at the time, nobody knew what Sony was going to charge for the PS5. Everybody was like, oh fuck, maybe this is the death knell for this generation. Like Microsoft is going to win again, because the fact of the matter is price does matter to the average consumer, right? So yeah, the Series X.
Like people were mainly like influenced by like the job market thing though too, right? Like I feel like that was a conversation everybody was having because of how things have been going the last few months. How could they make these things super expensive for people when all these people losing their jobs?
I mean, that was a concern, right? The economy is in a downturn. So the thought that is it possible that they could price these things at whatever they want and still sell them, despite a lot of people losing work or unsure about what the future holds economically. I think if there's one thing we've kind of learned from lockdown and quarantine, it's that the video game industry is sort of durable to this kind of pressure, because like more people spend time indoors. If those people happen to play video games, they're probably spending a little bit more time and money playing video games. I mean, now people don't spend money. Well, people shouldn't spend money they don't have. Sometimes they still do anyway, but we've definitely seen like the games industry was not really hurt in any way so far in terms of sales, let's say. I mean, I think it's going to hurt them later because a lot of games got delayed out of 2020. A lot of games got delayed later into 2020 that were supposed to come out. Like, I think if the original release date happened, we'd be playing Cyberpunk 2077 right now.
Yeah, I believe
so. There's some delayed effects of this, I think, that the games industry will feel. People are just wondering what they're going to be. So, yeah, I mean, that's one of them. Now, the counterpoint to that is the Series X existing and being $500, right? Like, $500 is pretty expensive for a console. I think last generation, the PS4 and the Xbox One released at $500, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe it was it $399? I don't know. Look it up. Yeah. But so the Series X got announced September 9th, the following day. Or the price of the Series X, because the Series X was already, pretty much everything was known about it in a vague sense. The size and shape, what it looked like, vague stats, vague power stats. But they announced it to be $499, and I think that's a good like price differential there. Like the $299 of the Series S and the $499 of the Series X, it's like enough of a difference where people have like a good reason to get the cheaper one if they don't care as much about power. But it's also like, not so much that it feels like silly. So I think they're in a good place, and people, Sony still hadn't released what the PS5 was going to cost. So you sort of ended up in a space where for like a week, everybody was just like, I don't know, Microsoft's doing pretty good with this shit. Like they talked about how the backwards compatibility focus, Game Pass, how that was going to work. Like Game Pass continues to be like a stupidly good deal if you play a lot of games. Like especially they're doing the Ultimate version, which includes PC and console if you happen to have both. A lot of those games are like cross save, so like if I was interested, which I'm not, but if I was interested in playing fucking Gears Tactics or something on my Xbox and then playing it also on my PC, my saves carry over really seamlessly and all that shit. I don't know. That stuff's cool though for people who use it. And you also have which I'm curious what you guys think about this, because this is kind of a weird one. They're like payment plan.
I think it's brilliant. I think it's legitimately genius. I think that's one of the most interesting parts about all of this. And I'll be interested to see if Sony tries to do something similar. But the Series S, the cheap. That's the cheap one, right? The Series S. Yeah, Series S is $24.99 a month, and that's with Game Pass included.
Yep, and Xbox Live.
Which is a like $10 a month currently benefit, right?
Yeah.
And then the Xbox Series X is $34.99 a month with Game Pass included.
Yeah.
I think it's super smart. It's such a cool. It's like I think it's very forward thinking of them. And honestly, it seems like they're almost getting to the point where they're pivoting out or like the focus away from the console world, and like they're still doing it and doing it well. But the focus is kind of shifting to get those PC gamers in as well, and now they hold a large majority of console and PC gamers' money, and everything is tied up.
It's they're well, with the payment plan, they're trying to get more people in on the hardware if they don't want to drop to, or $300 to $500 up front, right? It's like just pay $24.99 or $34.99 for a couple of years and the console, and you get Game Pass and Xbox Live and all that stuff. So maybe it's an easier pill to swallow. As a person who would just buy consoles anyway, I probably wouldn't do it this way. But and I think they did mention it's like it is basically like a hit to your credit. I think they do a credit check on that, which is
they do, but I would imagine it's probably a soft check. I don't actually put in your credit report.
Yeah, I would hope that would be the case, but I'm curious about that. And then the other thing is like, I'd heard this somewhere. Maybe this was on the Bombcast, but they were talking about like, is this primarily aimed towards people who wouldn't be able to afford these otherwise? And if so, is that really is that morally dubious or something like that? Which I could see that argument.
No, because people are just going to put it on a credit card otherwise. This way they're getting their money and cutting out the middleman.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's true. But this is like, you could be declined for a credit card, but approved for this if the barrier to entry isn't as high. Yeah. So it was just like a thought. I don't think it's like a huge, like nobody's out there being like, fucking evil ass Microsoft, but like, or more than usual anyway. I mean, they're morally dubious corporation across the board, as all are. But but it's kind of interesting. And I think it's cool, and it treats this almost like a phone. Like I'm one of those people who does the like I lease my phone basically. Like I don't care to own them because I'm just gonna get rid of it when I get a new one anyway. So I just lease my phone from Apple for 2 years and then get a new one, that kind of thing.
It's sort of weird to me because I feel like that happening with phones is out of necessity, just because you could argue that a phone, like a smartphone at least, is a necessity in some way. So even if you're not like financially in a place to be affording that otherwise, it's sort of weird to do that with a console.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely in the camp of thinking that this is like a financial decision in reaction to where people are at or where the economy is at right now. So it is kind of sketchy in that respect, but it's also good that more people will be able to play these games and stuff. So
yeah,
I'm kind of in the middle about it. I think any business decision they make is going to be to their benefit. It's never going to be like altruistic in any way, but
yeah.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely not. But I think really what this is to get their hooks in people with Game Pass, because you get to experience Game Pass all that time for like those 2 years that you're paying off your Xbox. And then once you've paid it off, boom, Game Pass is cut off. And then you're like, oh shit, like I don't have that anymore. I need to get it back. And you get back on the Game Pass essentially, you buy back into it.
Yeah.
And so I think that I'm forecasting like that is kind of their big move, is trying to make Game Pass much, much bigger than it is right now. I think that's kind of going to kind of be their focus, like moving forward.
I think the kind of scary thing though also is that, we see these like different headlines about the CEO of I guess Spotify or whatever, however people feel about Spotify month to month. And then it's kind of weird because we don't really know what games as a service is going to be like a couple of years from now. And, based on that, it seems like it could be pretty bad. But, at the moment, I'm loving Game Pass. I feel like almost everything I play is on there, and it's almost a disappointment when I have to pay for something. But sometimes I think about that from like the developer perspective and what's going to end up happening. But I'm sure we're going to end up talking about the new MSRP of certain games now too.
Yeah, that'll come later.
Yeah.
Just on that Game Pass and Spotify kind of point, a lot of these business deals are like super backroom shit, and I'm really curious what that looks like. But I remember hearing in the early days of like PS Plus and Game Pass and like having sort of like almost like a monthly subscription almost to like new games releasing. It sounded like it functioned differently from Spotify, in the sense that Spotify, you generate revenue when you stream a song, right? Or when you listen to something. I remember hearing that a lot of these licensing deals for games coming out on Game Pass or whatever were actually upfront lump sums that were basically like, hey, we're buying the rights to your game for this amount of time on our platform or whatever. Maybe almost like I think that's how like video stream, like Netflix and stuff does things. Like, we bought the rights up front to this, and then when that expires, maybe it'll wind up on other platforms or whatever. I'm not an expert on licensing, so who the fuck knows? But yeah, anyway. So I think if that idea continues, then perhaps it won't be as like strange and questionable for developers and creators as it is for like musicians on Spotify. But yeah, that is a whole fucking can of worms. But yes, so I think kind of lastly on this stuff, the Series X and S will come out on November 10th. You guys tempted at all or no?
Personally, no, because of Game Pass. And so I don't know if you guys had heard the announcement or not about exclusives for the Xbox. Did you see what they said they were doing?
Yeah, I think if it's what I'm thinking, then it's been this way for a little while. But
yeah, so it's no exclusives for the first 2 years of the Xbox's lifespan. Will be, all games will be available day one on Game Pass.
Yeah.
So
then no.
Yeah, there's no point if you have a PC and you subscribe to Game Pass. There's no point in purchasing an Xbox.
Yeah. Well,
and then you could get a PlayStation 5 and get those exclusives and be able to play, Horizon Zero Dawn and so on and so forth.
Why would you fucking want to? But yeah, you could.
Yeah.
I'm definitely in the camp of like Sony having more of my attention with that stuff. But I guess that also calls to mind, I mean, would you guys pay for a similar service from Sony on PC with more Sony games showing up on PC now? God, would you ever do that?
I wish. That's a pipe dream, I think. But yes, I mean, I would love more Sony exclusive to come to PC in general. But I mean, yeah, if it was worth it, I would certainly pay that service. And I would pay. I mean, think about it. You're basically asking if I would pay $10 a month to not have to buy a PlayStation. Definitely. Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I'm tired of owning things. Like, I prize, like, at this point, my prized possession is just my computer tower that I lug around from apartment to apartment as I move around this fucking city. And everything else feels disposable to me in terms of gaming. And like, if I didn't play video games, I probably wouldn't even own that fucking shitty TV. Like, because like I have it because the few times I have to play games on a console, it makes them look really fucking good. Otherwise, I don't care. Like I don't watch TV, and I barely watch fucking movies anymore at home. So, but yeah, so I absolutely would love that. PC should be the middle ground platform that everyone puts all their games on, but that is Microsoft owns the personal computer as a thing, basically, other than Apple, which they don't seem interested in investing in the game space at all. So, yeah, but so I think I agree. Just as a last point, I will say I'm interested in the idea of a Series S, mostly because I should mention the Series S doesn't have a disk drive also. Yeah. Which I think is the future, but my computer hasn't had a disk drive in like fucking 6 years. But I will say the Series S interests me for backwards compatibility purposes. Like if games, if 360 and Xbox original games run better on the Series S than they do on my Xbox One X, I will happily pay that little, entry, that $2.99 entry fee to just be able to go, yeah, I'll play Black. I don't know. I'll play Skate 3. Yeah. So that's really the only reason for me. But
I think the one thing that I like about I'm definitely more interested in the S than I am in the X, as it is. But
yeah.
The reason that I am is because of how small it is.
Oh yeah, it's adorable.
It's so small. It just seems like borderline portable. Like I could throw that thing in a backpack and take it with me on one of my countless trips that I go on, and just have a console, a full ass console in my backpack. Like that's ridiculous.
Look up, if you haven't, Sean, look up a video, like an unboxing video of the Series S. Like you could basically palm that console.
Yeah, it's crazy how small it is.
It's like, it looks like a small tray. Like it's very entertaining.
That's how it should be. There's no room for consoles anymore.
Yeah.
I feel like all these things are just appealing to people with huge suburban homes.
Yeah. Well, and as like the polar opposite, the Series X and the PlayStation 5 are fucking huge.
Enormous.
They're stupidly large. They're like borderline ITX, maybe even bigger than an ITX computer. Like they're dumb, dummy thick. But so yeah, let's talk about Sony. Let's talk about Sony. Did you guys watch that presentation?
I sure didn't. No, I did not.
Yeah. It was pretty entertaining, I will say. Well, I watched the Giant Bomb version, so of course it was. But but yes, so Sony had an event. It was about an hour long, almost an hour. It was like 50 minutes, and they kind of said in advance they're just going to talk about games coming out for it and talk about the console a little more. People weren't sure if they were going to reveal price on it, and they waited until the very end to do it.
Standard. Yeah.
But this was September 16th, so just last week. And this showcase was pretty effective in the sense that all of the games they showed are of interest to me, in a vague sense. Like, so they talked about, so they opened with the new Final Fantasy trailer, which is Final Fantasy 16. I think the main reason people care about this at all is that, if I'm not mistaken, Yoshida, who I think is better known as Yoshi P, who is the kind of man who brought Final Fantasy 14 back from the brink, this is his baby. He's the creative director on this. It will be his first time doing a Final Fantasy game that isn't that MMO, and people trust him. So, and it was a cool trailer.
His fashion is so on point.
Yeah, he wears good rings. He's got a lot of good jewelry. Yoshi P, good jewelry. Yeah, and then there's the trailer. It looks nice. There's no gameplay, or actually no, there was a little bit. Yeah, it was mostly cinematic stuff, but they showed some hacking and slashing. I don't know why, but I heard the song hacking and whacking and I don't know remember, was that Fallout 3 or New Vegas?
Yes, Butcher Pete. Fallout
Butcher
3.
Pete. That played through my head as I said that. Yeah, they showed a little bit of it. The combat looks kind of similar to 15, which I wasn't a huge fan of. But
I love this game's aesthetic.
Yeah, it's like weird medieval. It looks cool.
Yeah.
It looks cool. There's almost none of the like steampunky kind of sort of weird mix of future and present that was in 15, which, as we all know, like Final Fantasy games only vaguely are connected. So it probably has nothing to do with the timeline of any of the other games in the franchise. But and then they showed off some more of the new Spider-Man, Miles Morales, which is like an expansion to the last Spider-Man, the Ultimate Spider-Man game on the PS4. I didn't finish that game, but it was okay. I'm sure this will be okay. It looks really nice. It's very pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you pay $70, you get both games on the PS5, which there you go. If you want that, if you didn't play the other one, it'll be supposedly there on launch on November 12th. They showed off like a CGI trailer for a Harry Potter game, which is poor timing. Poor timing if you like trans rights.
Yeah.
Fucking J.K. Rowling, man. That lady cannot keep her fucking mouth shut about literally anything. And to her detriment.
It's all Twitter's fault.
Yeah, I mean, it is Twitter's fault for like being a platform where dumbass people can easily say wrong shit.
I say that completely in jest. I think that I feel like Twitter exposing pieces of shit is like the best thing ever. But
yeah, it's really entertaining for sure.
It's just overwhelming sometimes how many people you thought you really enjoyed just have shitty opinions.
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem is just that it's too easy to be wrong and not care that you're wrong. I mean, nothing that she says even vaguely makes sense as a concept. So it's sort of just embarrassing at this point. And I'm like, I never got into Harry Potter, but I really feel for people who did, because now if you're like childhood hinged on Harry Potter and all of a sudden like the creator is like a fucking boiled wart on the ass of the universe, then that's pretty fucking unfortunate. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty embarrassing. And I think a lot of people came out and were like, good news, J.K. Rowling has nothing to do with this new game. That's cool, except for the fact that she still fucking gets money from it. So like, whatever. But yeah, it looks like a fucking game you can play. I don't know. It kind of seemed like it seemed like they were going for like an RPG sort of thing. I don't know. Anyway, let's move on. I don't care about that. Now, actually, and this is really upsetting to me because so what Sean was talking about, where they had that little text at the end of that Final Fantasy trailer where they're like console exclusive, and then at the bottom, small. And then at the bottom it said also coming to PC, which was like in tiny text, like on the Final Fantasy trailer. The same thing happened with this next game, the Demon's Souls remake.
Is that true? How did I not see that?
That is true.
Oh my god.
Now here's the problem. It was wrong.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Some intern probably, which fucking RIP to that dude. Poor fucking bastard. He sliced up some version of this trailer where that title card, that little console exclusive also coming to PC card shows up at the end of the Demon's Souls remake trailer, and Sony had to come out hours later and be like, whoops, no.
Oh no.
No. So I remember when I was watching this like live, and when that happened, I was like, well, there goes my only reason to buy a PS5, at least at launch. And then no, now I'm back in. They got me back in because I can't play the Demon's Souls remake on PC. So looks like fucking catch me lining up outside of Best Buy on fucking November 12th. Like some kind of idiot. Yeah.
Some of this stuff feels strategic at this point.
Some of these mistakes.
I don't know how. Yeah, I don't know how, but like, there's got to be some like quality control department that views these videos before they go up, but apparently not. So
yeah. I mean, I you know what's funny is that I get the feeling that will happen at some point. Just not anytime soon. Like, we're probably looking at a year away, maybe.
Yeah, but doesn't
we'll see that game on PC.
I thought Demon's Souls was in the same camp as like Bloodborne, where it's just like, well, I mean, does that imply that like Bloodborne would be on PC at some point, or is that just like less likely for some reason?
Yeah, I mean, I think the main thing is that theoretically there's no good reason that Bloodborne isn't on PC other than licensing, sort of like, so Sony obviously, is the producer of Bloodborne, correct? Like they dumped money into From Software to make it. So you've got Sony, right, determining whether it's worth the investment to produce another version of that game on PC. There's also the fact that FromSoft or someone has to do the job coding that game. And then Sony's crunching the numbers going, boop, 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 boop. Like, are we going to make our money back on this? Like, is it worthwhile? Is it, can we just re-release it on PS5 instead as a backwards compatibility thing, or like an up-res and make the same amount of money? Whatever. Like there's not a... There are numerous finger quotes good reasons why they don't do it, and no really, really good ones. Like, they could if they wanted to, they just don't wanna, so they don't. And yeah, Demon's Souls is in the same camp where it was produced by Sony, at least somewhat. Now, the interesting thing, I'm actually gonna look this up, because I think Demon's Souls was in different, and this is common, but in different regions, yeah. So the Atlas actually published Demon's Souls in the US. So it was Sony Computer Entertainment in Japan, and they bankrolled it enough that they technically own the IP. But Atlas is who saw to its US release. Like, Demon's Souls was never going to come out in the US. That game came out in Japan, and they were like, pfft. Well, first of all, it was received well, but it didn't sell massively well at the time. And then people in From Software and Sony in Japan were like, nobody in the US wants to play this. This game's fucking weird. This is not an American game. And then, a bunch of people imported it and really liked it to the point that they saw to its release. So, yeah. Sean, did you look at the trailer for this, or Tyler? Did you guys look at the trailer for the new Demon's Souls remake?
I didn't. No, I saw that it was happening, but I didn't watch the trailer.
This is a new one, right? It's not the same trailer from the last Sony. Wow,
this is I did not see it. This is gameplay. This was in this. So it was in this PS5 kind of showcase. It releases the day the console releases on November 12th, and I have two feelings about it. One is that it looks like it feels a little different, which I have mixed feelings about. Similarly to, I don't know if you guys played the Shadow of the Colossus remake. That game felt a little bit different than the original did. Just, they tightened things up and changed some things here and there. Not substantially, it's still, but it does feel different. This game looks like it feels a little different. It also looks stupidly good. It is absolutely gorgeous. It is the first game I've seen running, fully running, that I feel like would not look as smooth and look as good on a PS4. It is special. That shit is beautiful.
Oh, it is really pretty. I'm watching it as we speak.
The art is nice. Open my beer. Yeah. It looks really good. So I am a dumbass. I am a simp for fucking FromSoft. I'm a simp for Souls games. I will line up on day one, and I will have this game and I will play it. I have a copy of Demon's Souls sitting underneath that TV and a PS3 ready to go, just in case. You never know. It's like that emergency, if the world ends and the power goes down and everything, you got to have that emergency wank stash. No.
Oh my god.
No.
It's that emergency powered PlayStation 3.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
I mean, for me, I'm in the same boat as you, but I think for me, I've never played Demon's Souls, but I got obsessively into Dark Souls in the last 2 years. So for me, it's just like playing another From game for the first time. You know, higher fidelity, everything about it looks better. It might as well just be a new IP for me from my perspective. So I'm equally, if not more, excited. This looks insane.
Yeah, I mean, my I recall Demon's Souls coming out and being interested in it just from how it looked. Watching the Zero Punctuation review in which he hated it, and going out and buying it anyway, and feeling kind of ambivalent about it, like thinking it was okay. Like I didn't like it. I played maybe halfway through it and was like, this game's kind of hard, and I don't know, it gives me anxiety. I was probably, I'm trying to remember what year that was, 2009. So it was February 2009. So it was like just before I started high school. No, I was in high school. Yeah. So I had just started high school, but yeah, and it felt weird and strange and different, and I went back and played it again with a new perspective when Dark Souls came out. Like when Dark Souls came out and everyone was really into it on the PC, I played through that, and I went back and played through Demon Souls, and that game is they're very different. They're very different games. Feels different. It's almost like how Bloodborne feels completely different, but yeah, I have a Dark Souls tattoo, so clearly I'm an idiot. And then yeah. So that's that. They announced the price, and they did some glamour shots of the console. They did like these weird like zooming, like up the curves of the console. And then they showed a kind of a multi-region, like, hey, here's what it's going to cost in a few different currencies. And yes, so the standard edition with the UHD Blu-ray 4K disc drive will be $500. And the digital only edition, which no disc drive, and it looks better, I think. It's slimmer without the disc drive. Is $399. I will be getting the $399 no disc one. Yeah.
So, am I alone in thinking that the PS5 is fucking ugly?
No,
dude,
it's hideous.
I completely agree.
It's
the way it looks.
It's really bad looking.
It looks so bad. It is legitimately an eyesore. Like if I get it, I want to hide it. Yeah.
You know what's funny is I'm really curious if when it's on its side it'll look better. Like, you guys think it'll look a little bit better if it's not standing up?
Personally, no. I think the overall design of it is so abstract in the worst way, and I'm such an advocate for very like functional hardware aesthetics. I mean, I have no. It's just really fucking ugly. I have no other words for it, and it's really sad because I know a lot of people really love it, but I hate it.
Yeah,
I really hate it.
It's polarizing. I respect them for going for it like that. I respect that they tried, but they did not succeed, in my opinion.
There's fake ass concept art of the PS5 that I like more than that, honestly.
Yeah, that happens a lot. I feel like for me and
like
products.
I definitely like the Xbox, the X and the S both. I think they both look good. Like they're very utilitarian and like not a lot going on, but I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I like that shit. It looks good. It doesn't. Yeah. I
like that white is now a common color for consoles because I think I like how it looks. It does get dusty and dirty, but I think it's cool. Like I remember, I guess the 360 was white, but the 360. One day we're just gonna have to come in here and fucking stack rank console aesthetics because like the 360 was fucking hideous. Also, I think
it was not a good look.
It looked like somebody built it with fucking Legos. I don't know. There's something about that shit that just was weird looking, but I like the PS5. I like that the PS5 is like white, which is different from how PlayStations are almost always black. So I think it's but it is really ugly. I don't know. You guys day one PS5 owners?
No, definitely not.
No.
I'd like to say yes, but that probably won't be the case. I mean, I don't know. I really do want to play Demon Souls, but I think I should realize that that's not a good enough reason to buy a console.
Yeah. I mean, I think that they obviously mentioned, that backwards compatibility is not a big focus for Sony, although it will be PS4 backwards compatible, and some games might receive upgrade versions. Like, it seems to vary from game to game, and that's true for the Xbox stuff as well. Like, they seem to be leaving it up to developers on how they want to do this stuff, but like some games seem to be, we'll just provide you a free upgrade on the PS5. Like, I think The Witcher 3 is that way. Whatever. Like, I don't know if you own it on PS4, you just get the PS5 version, or if you own the Xbox version, Xbox One, you get it on Series X, like that kind of thing, which is cool. Some developers are doing like, pay $10 and we'll upgrade it for you to this version or whatever. So there's definitely, like, I think maybe depending on the level of support, there's a good reason to get the new console if you like have a PS4 game that you want to run better or something. If it's something like that doesn't exist on PC. But yeah, otherwise I agree. I mean, Demon's Souls is really the only thing driving me towards getting a PS5. And the fact that $399 isn't bad. Like, I don't like, that's like an amount of money that I cannot feel ridiculously guilty about.
Yeah.
Especially if I sell, like, I'll just get rid of this PS4 Pro over here and fucking, buy a PS5. So yeah.
Yeah.
One thing also, so Sean kind of mentioned this, but I don't know if you saw this, Tyler, the talk that maybe the next generation games will be going up $10 again.
Really?
Yeah. So it seems like they were saying that the PS5 version of NBA 2K21 will be $70 instead of $60.
$70.
70 bones.
Yeah, I don't like that.
You don't like that? Whoa, are you sure? As a consumer, you don't like paying more for the same thing?
Yeah, especially for a 2K game. Mm-hmm. Literally the same thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah.
No, yeah, that's interesting. I mean, they know they have us. Like, people will do it. People are still going to do it, regardless of whether they, how high they jack it up. We'll still can buy it.
Yeah. I mean,
it's just unfortunate.
I feel I'm of two minds about this. Okay, do you guys remember when games went from $50 to $60? Do you remember that? I remember.
Barely.
I remember where I was, dude. I was at the Best Buy, and at the time,
they did it in front of you. You were about to buy a game. You were about to buy a game for $50. And they switched the price tag in front of you.
They fucking did. So now here's what happened. Okay, so it happened that way on consoles, right? The 360 and the PS3 generation, they switched to $60. It had been that way for a while. Now, what was interesting was that PC did not do that at that exact same time. They waited. And PC games were still $50 even while the same game on 360 was $60. Okay? That was interesting. I remember the first fucking PC game was a Call of Duty game. I swear to God. I swear. I remember it was I feel like it was Modern Warfare 2. I feel like I remember walking into cuz it was 2010, it was 2010. StarCraft 2 had come out, and it was still, StarCraft 2 was $50, I'm pretty sure. That was a $50 game. Right?
I can't remember.
Fuck. Now I'm losing all my credibility. I was like, I remember where I was, I think. Yeah. But I distinctly remember Modern Warfare 2 being the game on PC that made itself $60. Like it was like, okay, we're not doing this anymore. Like, yeah, PC games just cost $60 now.
It doesn't make a huge difference to me because of how seldomly I buy games at full price anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was buying on principle, sure, but there's so many things to consider. I mean, I don't think games should necessarily be getting more expensive to make, but at the same time, does that mean that developers are getting paid more? Who really knows where that money goes? But for me personally, as a consumer, and the way that I buy games, it's not going to affect me very much unless something different happens to me. and I start just buying all these AAA games on launch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I generally only buy a couple. Like I pretty much always buy the new Call of Duty as soon as that one comes out. I will probably forever do that. And then, I mean, Cyberpunk, I'll probably do that.
Yeah.
Just a handful of others. I'm not a huge AAA guy myself either. But
I somehow completely skipped over this in my brain, but they showed off the new Call of Duty campaign in that PlayStation showcase as well.
Oh, really?
They did. It looks really nice. It looks like a Call of Duty campaign. Like there's some small stuff in it that's different, but it does look really nice. I agree. Yeah, I'm with you. I think this to me, I'm of two minds about it because on the one hand, games have been $60 for over a decade. And even if you account for inflation, I think it makes sense that they get more expensive. I mean, shit just happens that way. Now, on the other hand, I think that the way that they've chosen to make money between then and now by nickel and diming the fuck out of us every possible step of the way should be more than enough to make up for those costs. So if in this transition to $70, are they going to give us more, or no, they're going to continue to nickel and dime us in every possible way, right? They're going to sell skins and they're going to do loot boxes and all that stuff. So I mean, it seems to make almost no discernible difference either way, and they're just choosing to charge us more. It's not like the difference of $10 every copy sold is going to be like straight into the pockets of developers. Like, it's not like they're going to be like, hey guys, now that we're selling our games for $70 instead of $60, everyone gets a pay raise. Like that fucking will never happen. So, I don't know. It seems. Strange.
Honestly, I think $70 is a lot. That's a lot of fucking money.
It's a lot of money. It's almost $100. It's closer to $100.
That is insane. Yeah, that's a fucking lot. I honestly, that may just deter me from buying new AAAs and just waiting to get shit on Steam sales and stuff.
Even $60 feels like a lot if you really
I mean, it is.
You buy 2 games in a month, you just spend $120 that month. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, but at least you get 2 games instead of just 1.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
As we all know, 2 is more.
2 is more than 1, as I like to say.
Yeah.
Math is important to me. But yeah, and I think that's the bulk of I think what we were here to talk about. I think it's been a weird time to be playing video games this year because we've seen the industry go through a hardware release year is always weird, but now because of COVID and everything, it's pretty clear that the world is changing, and so the games industry is going to change with it. How does work from home affect video game? So many games got delayed, and we're going to see many more probably heading into next year, and stuff like that. The transition into primarily digital focused, the fact that both console manufacturers are releasing versions of their consoles without disk drives is pretty wild. And I think one thing we didn't talk about, but maybe we could spend a second on, is dude, fucking video games are huge now.
I was just about to bring that up. You can maybe get 10 games on a terabyte hard drive.
Yeah.
Now, with fucking Warzone is 120 gigs or something insane, and every update is fucking just so many gigs. It's ridiculous.
It feels especially strange when you think about how quickly this seems to have happened. I feel like it's been 2 to 3 years, and all of a sudden, not even it just feels like game sizes suddenly ballooned overnight in my head, to the point that now my 2 terabyte hard drive, or SSD situation is I find myself constantly juggling games, right? I'm all right, well, I'm not playing this anymore. I guess I'll delete it. Like,
I mean, everything is open world in some respect now.
Yeah.
Everything is like fucking huge, even if it wasn't at some point.
Yeah. Man, I remember where I was when I first downloaded the game, and it was fucking huge. I was like,
"What was it, dude? What was it? Modern Warfare 2?"
I was downloading it.
Yeah.
I walked into the Best Buy, and
it's always Best Buy.
Yeah, it's always Best. My computer was in Best Buy getting fixed by Geek Squad. They were getting the roaches out of it.
Yep. The beans.
Yeah. No, dude. I agree. It's funny to think that what used to feel like more than enough hard drive space now feels like hilariously too little. Like the fact that these consoles ship with 1 terabyte of like, I think the Series X and the PS5 are 1 terabyte each, right? The Series S might even be 500 gigs. Trying to remember.
And the interesting thing too that I mean, we don't really consider it, but some people use these as like their like multimedia hub. Like they use it for streaming, for like movies, TV shows, and if you are like downloading that shit onto the hard drive, that's taking up space that you no longer have for games now. And so
with streaming media, why would you? But yes, I agree.
Yeah, well, yeah. But I mean, like people who set up Plex servers and stuff like that. I don't know if you can do that on an Xbox, but for sake of argument,
curious. You could definitely access a Plex server, but I don't know if you could set one up. Yeah, no, I mean, it's super fascinating, and it's I think. Yeah, so just to confirm, 512 gigabytes of an NVMe SSD on the S and 1 terabyte on the X. Both versions of the PlayStation 5 have 1 terabyte. But yeah, I mean, 512 is nothing. I mean, download Warzone and you just lost half your hard drive. So and it's only going to get bigger between then and now. So, but yeah, it's interesting. I think we didn't talk about this, but like peripherals between the consoles. So like PSVR, the current generation of PSVR is compatible with the PlayStation 5, which I think is kind of fascinating. They'll probably release a hardware update to that at some point as well. Like controllers are compatible across generations. So like if you have an Xbox One controller, like I have one of those Pro controllers that I use on my PC and on my Xbox, the 3 times a year that I boot up that Xbox, that I can use that on a Series X. It's strange. Same with PS4. You can use it on a PS5, but only for games, only for PS4 games. So like if you're playing a PS4 game, you can use your PS4. Yeah, that's because they're doing all this weird shit with the controller.
Yeah.
I don't know. The PS5 controller, I didn't read into it too much, but they're the DualSense is what they're calling it.
Yeah.
It's got smell-o-vision. like when you get shot, like the scent of rusty iron, like fucking shoots out of the controller at you. So that's I feel like I just keep remembering things that are weird about like the PS5. What it comes with like a bunch of extra random shit, like a headset or like headphones, like they're trying to do like the 3D audio stuff.
I don't think it comes with it. I was under the impression you have to buy that, but that headset does sound interesting because it's supposed to be like a full like 7-in-1 surround sound headset that is going to have some sort of like proprietary software on the PlayStation that makes it really fucking awesome, allegedly, from what I was looking at anyways. But
here's what they're saying comes in the box. Maybe you're right. Maybe that's just a bundle you could get. HDMI cable. Oh yeah, that is something we didn't talk about. HDMI 2.0. So both of these consoles are trying to do higher than 60 hertz. Is it 2.0 or 2.1? I should have. I didn't even think about this when I was writing up my notes, but like they're, console games up until now and TVs up until now have only focused on 60 hertz, which is 60 frames per second. Hertz is the rate at which the screen refreshes to show you a new image. All of the consoles moving forward are trying to allow people to play games at higher than 60 frames per second, but on like chances are your TV doesn't support that right now. You'd have to go out and buy a new TV that supports the new HDMI standard and new cables and all this stuff, because you need to throughput so much more data to do like 4K at beyond 60 hertz. So that's a bit of a weird one. And I hadn't really thought about that until just this moment, which is like, I don't imagine many people are going to go out and buy new TVs just so they can play games at higher than 60 frames per second. But
yeah, I mean, I think the one cool thing is that with this generation, the standard is going to be 60 frames essentially for all games going forward.
Supposedly.
Supposedly. But I mean, there's nothing that's really stopping you from just hooking your console up to a monitor that has a higher refresh rate, right? And so then you could achieve it through that without having to invest in it. Television, but
definitely. Theoretically, because here's the thing: is that even current, so like monitors that support higher than 60 frames, you're not using HDMI. You're using DVI or DisplayPort or DisplayPort, yeah. So like I mean, or USB-C does. Yeah. So I mean, but will an adapter let you do that? Like if you did an HDMI to DisplayPort adapter for a monitor, would that let you do that on a console, or no? Would the console not support the adapter? Like there's a lot of questions there. You might not even be able to do that actually. But yeah, it's interesting. I also I had dabbled at one point in plugging up current generation consoles like the PS4 Pro up to monitors, and like they don't scale. Like basically they have the two options where it's like 1080p or 4K, you know what I mean? Like, so if you plug it into a 1440p monitor, you're playing your PS4 Pro at 1080p on a 1440p monitor. You can't upscale it to 1440p, or you can't choose to display a 4K image just because you want to. You know what I mean? The screen needs to support it. So there's a real walled garden shit going on there. But yeah, anyway, I think that's all I've got. I know this is probably the least exciting episode we've had up until now, but I felt like there was like a lot of shit that I was just like, I just want to talk through this, Yeah.
No, there's a lot of interesting stuff. Like I mentioned when you brought it up, that I haven't kept up with the console stuff at all, and so gave me kind of the opportunity to do some research into it. It is pretty interesting. What all is happening with this next generation. I'm definitely going to keep a closer eye on it and kind of see what happens from here and everything. Especially I for me, like I said, the most interesting part for me was Microsoft seeming to pivot so hard into Game Pass. And so I'm really curious to see what happens there, like what comes from that, because I think that could end up being pretty big depending on, how well received it is and what they choose to do with it. Like, I think that'll be interesting for sure. So
yeah, they're all about services now.
Yeah.
Who's gonna win? Who's winning this generation? Call it now.
PS5.
Yeah.
So just like the net income that they make, or like who's
gonna sell more consoles?
Consoles. Yeah.
Sony.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll play more games on Game Pass, but
for sure.
Sony's going to sell more consoles.
Yeah,
and I don't think that that's a good thing necessarily. I mean, if anything, it's probably a bad thing. But yeah, I don't know. Probably Sony.
Yeah. It's I agree. I think they're poised in a good place to kind of already take over the next generation with how many people prefer the PS4 as it is.
Yeah.
The exclusives conversation is a big one, and people seem to be really into Sony's first party output, like Spider-Man, God of War. Yeah, they announced that new God of War. I didn't even talk about that because it was like a nothing announcement. It's just a fucking logo, some dialogue. Yeah. But yeah, God of War, Demon Souls, people are excited about that. People are just really into Sony franchises right now. The fucking they're releasing a new Horizon game in case you need more mediocrity in your life. In case you need another.
Those games are very pretty.
Oh
They
yeah, it's
look
breathtaking,
really
absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
Which is great because you can spend a lot of time admiring how gorgeous they are while you are mind-numbingly checking off fucking tasks in a map screen. Yeah.
Yeah, I prefer Dark Souls where I don't have the checks or anything. I just have to keep a mental note of all of it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I want my story told to me through item descriptions that I have to go into the menu and read.
That I have to read from a wiki.
Or vague, like, hello, traveler. These lands, they've boiled over with the fucking wounds for years. Like, what does that mean? What are you talking about? Like, who are you? I don't even know your name. Yeah, and then go through the rest of the game not knowing what that guy was on about, and then Avati video explains that he has been alive for 4 million years and has a pet cat or something. Like,
thank God for Vati.
Yeah. But yeah, guys, I think that's it for us this time. Maybe next time we'll actually talk about playing some fucking video games. I don't know. Sean doesn't play video games. That'll never happen.
I watch so many video games that I might as well. I mean, I basically play them.
Sean reads the Wikipedia articles of each video game that he's playing.
Fun fact, I've never played a single video game.
Never. He's watched through osmosis of watching people play video games, he has become the Silent Hill expert.
The first video game I ever played was Craftopia. It was it was really good. Video games are pretty cool.
It's a good thing that Craftopia is every video game then, because
it was the perfect game to get started.
Masterpiece of a story.
I really hope we get to talk more about Craftopia.
I do too. I really do too. They update.
We need like a whole Craftopia episode.
Day. Yeah,
we could have one. I mean, they do continue to update that game. I feel like we should give it like 6 months. In 6 months, we're gonna go into Craftopia, and it's gonna be like a AAA game.
No, we have to do it now because we're the only people on the planet not playing Fall Guys.
Yeah, that's fucking.
Well, hey, no, Fall Guys is dead, dude. It's Among Us now.
Oh yeah.
No, they just updated it like a week ago. And people are really loving the update. Apparently, somehow I haven't played a single second of Fall Guys. I don't know how. It's just gonna be one of those weird things.
You're doing yourself a huge favor.
It's a good time. I like it.
I hate every second of that. It gives me absolute horrendous anxiety. I could play fucking Souls games and be stone faced, but something about
people
Fall
are
Guys...
saying that's like the future of Mario Party or whatever.
I was gonna say it's just like a Mario Party game, but just
I hate Mario Party.
Yeah, welcome to hell.
Yeah, you maybe not enjoy this game.
I think everyone in the world is playing one of two video games. It's either Among Us or Fall Guys. And then there's like a small pocket of seemingly 14 people really obsessed with Dead by Daylight for some reason. I don't know why, but I can't fucking get on YouTube or Twitch without seeing people talking about fucking Dead by Daylight.
Is there another new like update to that game or something?
I think they consistently update that game, yeah. But anyway, all right, guys. Thank you so much for joining me in this discussion, this kind of fucking monologue, if you will, that I had about new shit.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah. Thanks, Sean. Thanks, Tyler. Thanks, anyone who listens to this rambling. Hopefully, we'll see. Maybe I'll just leave in that part where Sean gets up and gets a beer. Let's see how the editing goes. But anyway, all right, guys. Later.
Peace.
Bye.